So the duty schedule came out and you see that you're scheduled to be Officer of the Day. The OD plays a crucial role in safe, efficient operations at Sandhill. Do you know everything that you're supposed to do? This video covers what the club expects of an Officer of the Day, including some things that you may not have seen other ODs doing. The job begins several days before your scheduled duty day. Sending out email reminders to the scheduled crew members decreases the chance of having no-shows. The doors will be locked when the morning OD and the other crew show up. I'm not going to include the combination here because this video will be available to non-members. But if you do not know the codes, email a board member or another OD to get them. You should check the weather forecast a few days beforehand. If the forecast is iffy, then you need to start a text message conversation with the scheduled tow pilot and the scheduled instructors so that you can discuss the forecast and make a plan for deciding whether to cancel or shift the starting time. This is a tough decision. When there is a change, crew members and students really appreciate being informed far enough ahead that they don't have to leave their houses. On the other hand, sometimes we've made that decision too early and we've canceled on a day where the weather turned out to be just fine. The time between when you arrive at the field and the first flight of the day is usually the busiest time for the morning OD. Once enough people have arrived, it's time to get the aircraft out of the hangar. The morning tow pilot is responsible for getting the tow plane ready. You should get a tow rope ready or delegate that job to someone else. All of the club members should already know the rules for moving gliders, but those rules are extremely important, so I will repeat them here. To avoid hangar rash, at least 3 people need to be involved whenever moving gliders within the hangar. Once the gliders have been moved to the flight line, position the glider facing away from the runway until the pre-flight checks have been completed. You should assign a student to pre-flight each glider. Based on the experience level of that student, you may need to also assign someone else to teach them how to do a proper pre-flight. If issues are discovered with either the tow plane or with any of the gliders, make sure a squawk is entered into the system. If a glider is determined not to be airworthy, put a pool noodle over the front control stick to make that obvious to others. The ops cart should be towed to the flight line and prepared for use. Blank flight sheets are kept in the compartment of the metal clipboard. If that compartment is empty, look in the desk drawers in the clubhouse or in the supply cabinet. The instructors are responsible for making a plan regarding the order in which students will fly, which instructor they'll fly with, and which gliders they will use. A morning briefing is conducted before the first launch of the day. The briefing is led by the morning OD, the tow pilot, and the instructors. In preparation for that, you should get a weather briefing or assign a student to get one. One of the jobs of the OD is to check whether people have completed the required club checkouts. Every pilot that wants to fly should put their name on the daily list soon after they arrive. There are a couple of different forms that get used for the daily list. If you don't have one of those, even a blank piece of paper works. You will need to open the currency binder and find the currency sheet for each pilot. That includes student pilots, instructors, and commercial pilots. To fly as the pilot in command, the person must have completed a seasonal safety review, completed a seasonal flight check, and completed a checkout in the type of glider that's to be flown. Also, pilots and ground crew members should have completed the SSF Wing Runner course. Before continuing, please answer the first quiz question. The correct answer is that everyone should fill out a currency sheet before their first flight as a member. For many new members, there won't be anything checked off on the front of it at that point in time, but the back side has emergency contact information, which is important to have right away. The OD is the leader of the ground crew. In the mornings, students serve as crew for one another. In the afternoons, members are scheduled to serve as ground crew members. You'll have crew members with varying degrees of prior experience. Some of your ground crew members will need instruction about how to do their jobs. You can provide that instruction yourself, or you can delegate that to someone else. You'll need to observe whether the wing running is being done correctly. That's especially true with less experienced members, but you'll sometimes catch the experienced members doing it wrong also. Some of your crew members have a lot of situational awareness and understand how the operation is supposed to work, so they notice what needs to be done and do it without being told. However, there are also plenty of crew members that know how to do each job, but they need to be told when they should launch or retrieve a glider. Sometimes you'll need to give instructions to the retrieve vehicle driver, such as telling them to hold short of the choke point or to put the glider at the front of the line. The club has handheld radios that can be used for this purpose. That only works if someone thought ahead to put them in the retrieve vehicle and turn them on. All crew members, including the officer of the day, should be wearing yellow vests so that everyone can clearly see that they are officially acting as crew. We should all be grown up enough to take care of ourselves without our mothers reminding us to put on sunscreen or drink enough, but often we forget about these things, so it never hurts to remind your fellow members to do these things. During busy times, take a bottle of water out to the tow pilot between tows. And if you notice that an instructor is going non-stop without any breaks, have the retrieve driver take him a bottle of water. The OD is responsible for deciding which gliders should be positioned for the next launch and who should be getting into that glider. There are priority rules that guide these decisions. Usually, check rides are conducted on weekdays with no other flights happening, but if they do happen on weekends, they get top priority. During the month of April, we make it a priority for everyone to get their seasonal flight checks completed. If somebody's planning a badge flight or a record attempt, then they probably have a specific time window that they consider optimal to make that happen. We strive to accommodate that. The next priority goes to students that are preparing for an imminent check ride. In the mornings, we give priority to instructional flights. Doing that maximizes the chance that the students will get their flights and also the chances that the instructors will get to go home when they plan to go home. The default priority rule among students is that the students that signed up first get to fly first. However, sometimes instructors will have reasons for taking students in a different order than that. In the afternoon, member flights and instructional flights are scheduled based on who signed up first on the daily list. A lot of times, pilots will negotiate scheduling with one another. When they agree to take their flights in a different order, the OD should accommodate their agreements. Commercial flights have the lowest priority. Although we like the revenue from commercial flights, we can't let commercial flights interfere with our members. One of the main jobs of the officer of the day is to record all of the flights on the flight sheet. The flight sheet has a couple of different purposes, so understanding how it gets used may help you understand why certain things need to be recorded. The main purpose of the flight sheet is to bill the correct people the correct amount. The flight sheets are also used to keep track of time on each glider for purposes of 100-hour inspections and things like that. Many pilots also use the flight sheet to help them fill out their logbooks. Sometimes you'll need to leave the ops cart for some reason. You can delegate the job of filling out the flight sheet to another person while you're away. If you'll be somewhere where you have a radio and where you can observe the operations, you can also just take the flight sheet with you. The first piece of information that the billing specialist will need is the name of the person that will be paying for the flight. Don't fret about spelling people's name correctly as long as you're close enough that the billing specialist can figure out which person it is. For commercial rides, write Discovery Flight or Commercial Ride or something like that. I'll discuss the recording of commercial flights in more detail later. Usually the flight gets paid for by either a student or the pilot in command, but if that's not true for some reason, write down the name of the PIC or the student in parentheses. Oftentimes when members fly together in a two-place glider, they will want to split the cost of the flight. In that case, you should write down both names and write the word split in parentheses. Since the flight sheets get used to record the time for each glider, it's important to record which glider was used. So don't just write down Grove 103. Indicate winch flights with an X in the appropriate column. The flight sheet also gets used to keep track of how many commercial flights and instructional flights each member completes. And it gets used to keep track of how many tows and winch launches each member completes. A tow pilot or winch driver often stays on duty for a series of flights, so you can just use a ditto mark. Every time a glider is launched or lands, you should check the time and record it right away. If you miss one for some reason, make your best guess as soon as possible after you notice. Sometime after the landing, do the math to fill in the flight time. That saves the billing specialist from having to do the math, and it also is a backup if some of your writing isn't perfectly legible. The tow pilot should call the release altitude over the radio. These are reported and recorded in feet above mean sea level, not above ground level. If you miss the release altitude radio call, or if the tow pilot fails to make one, ask the tow pilot after they land, or ask the glider pilot after they land. Before continuing, please answer the second quiz question. Although the OD makes the record, the glider pilots are responsible for it being accurate. Before leaving the airfield, each glider pilot should check whether the information for their flights is correct. We often have visitors at Richmond Field, and we want them to enjoy their experience without being any kind of a hazard. Many people that visit are just interested in watching. It's important to let these people know where it is safe for them to watch from. After having that safety discussion, dealing with visitors is on a time available basis. Feel free to delegate discussions with visitors to other members that happen to be around. Visitors like having somebody explain what's going on. Many of them have never seen a glider being launched before. We don't want visitors touching our aircraft unsupervised. However, if there is a glider that's not in use, it's okay to show them the cockpit and explain how the controls and the instruments work. Some of the people that visit are interested in taking a commercial ride. Some of those come specifically for that purpose, but a lot of them simply were driving by and noticed the sign. In addition to the things mentioned above for the people that are just there to watch, you need to explain how commercial rides work. It's important to give them a realistic estimate of when their ride will happen. People get upset if you overpromise about that. The people need to understand that you're only giving them an estimate and that we'll get to them when it is their turn. If somebody's not able to wait, then it's better to have them go away and come back another day than to go away mad. Have them sign one of our release forms. These should be in the metal discovery sheet clipboard behind the blank discovery sheet flight logs. And finally, introduce the visitor to the commercial pilot that's on duty and will likely be taking them on their flight. Some of the people that come to visit us are interested in becoming members. The conversation with these people may depend on what kind of flight background they have. You should explain to these people how we handle flight training at Sandhill. It's quite a bit different than at a typical fixed base operator. You should explain the cost and the requirement to serve as a ground crew at least once per month. We want people to have realistic expectations about these things before they join. Then you need to explain the process of applying for membership. Specifically, potential members need to fill out an application, which is on our website. There should also be hard copies in a drawer in the clubhouse. The board needs to vote to approve new members. That typically takes about a week. After your conversation, send an email to a board member summarizing the conversation so that when we are processing their membership application, we know that they visited and who they talked to. When we give a commercial ride, the OD needs to fill out the discovery flight log in addition to making the usual entries on the flight sheet. Record the line number of the corresponding entry on the flight sheet. That way you won't need to record that information twice. Often the person who's paying for the ride is different than the person who's getting the ride. We want a record of both of their names. If we ever have a need to contact the person later, for example, regarding payment, then we need contact information for them. You need to record the amount that was paid, which should correspond to the glider type and the release altitude. There's a cash box in the clubhouse for any cash that's collected. This is also where members should put receipts if they make reimbursable purchases on behalf of the club. Checks also go in the cash box. If the customer redeems a gift card, then you should record the code on the Discovery flight sheet. If possible, you should also enter the code using the square reader.
All right, so we're going to charge a Mile High Club using a gift certificate. So it was in the DG. It is a $250 gift certificate. One. So review sale of one item. Mile High DG, $250. Charge $250. Confirm and pay. Now it's expecting a credit card, but you have to back up one step and do gift card. There's not a gift card on file, so this is why we need the 16-digit number. 3286 9773 3262. Oh, there it is. Okay, so now charge. Authorizing gift card ending in 3262. And I usually print out a receipt. If the customer doesn't want it, doesn't hurt to attach it to the commercial sheet. So that's how you do a gift card redemption.
We are now able to accept Zelle payments. That wasn't true when the Discovery flight sheet was designed, so there's no column for that. You should note that in the remarks section, and you should record the email address that was used. That allows the treasurer to match up the payment with the customer. Before proceeding, please answer the next quiz question. We do not need to know a passenger's date of birth. We need to know their weight to determine that the glider weight and balance is within limits and gross weight is not exceeded. The commercial pilot is responsible for adding ballast if needed. Some potential passengers do have to get turned away because they exceed the 242-pound maximum approved weight for each seat. The busiest time for the afternoon OD typically happens after the day's flying is all done. There are several things that should be done by the last pilot to fly each glider, but sometimes that pilot will leave without realizing that nobody else is going to fly it later. So the OD should ensure that someone took care of these tasks. This includes washing at least the leading edges of the wings, which tend to accumulate a lot of bugs. Cleaning the canopy using the plexiglass cleaner and a clean rag. The cleaning supply cabinet is located just inside the walk-in door of the hangar. Any battery in the glider should be removed and put on a charger in the clubhouse. Any ballast should be removed and put on the ops cart. This should be done after a pilot is done flying it, even if others are going to be flying it later in the day, but it needs to be checked again at the end of the day. The afternoon tow pilot is responsible for making the tow plane ready for the next day. The OD may ask others to assist with some of these tasks, such as washing the leading edges of the wings, cleaning the windscreen, refueling the tow plane, and locking up the fuel pump. I will be producing a separate video showing the approved way of packing all of our gliders, tow planes, and other equipment in our hangar. I want to keep that separate so that people can easily refer to that while they're packing the hangar. Before you leave for the day, use the checklist that's hanging on the inside of the hangar walk-in door to see if you've missed anything. Check that the glider batteries are on their chargers. Check that the radio on the ops cart is turned off and that the ops cart is turned in so that the radio will work the next day. Check that the Square credit card reader is plugged in so that it will be ready for the next day. Check that the club's handheld radios are on their chargers. The flight sheet and the Discovery flight log should be put in the drawer in the clubhouse. Any cash or checks that were received during the day should be in the cash box in the clubhouse. The retrieve vehicles should be fueled and ready for the next day. If needed, fuel for these vehicles is located just outside the back door of the clubhouse. Finally, make sure that the hangar door is properly latched and the clubhouse door is locked. Before continuing, please answer the last quiz question. Our current retrieve vehicles are both gas powered, so they do not need to be plugged in. Thank you for agreeing to serve as Officer of the Day. We'll see you at Richmond Field.